Welcome to B2B Commerce Corner. Commerce Corner is a sub-series of the E-Commerce Edge podcast discussing all things B2B commerce through the lens of agencies, consultants, merchants, and more. Enjoy. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the E-Commerce Edge podcast with me, Jason Greenwood, your host. And for a second guest episode with me today is Mr. Rupesh Agrawal. And he is the founder and CEO, president, head of everything over at AMLA, but they're more well known for Znode, their platform, their e-commerce platform. And he was the most recent episode he was on with me was way back in July of 2024. That feels like a lifetime ago. That was episode 392, from one B2B e-commerce junkie to another. What's next for B2B e-commerce platforms? We had a fantastic conversation. We covered a lot of ground. We took a walk down B2B e-commerce memory lane, and we really had a great conversation back then, and I really enjoyed the chat that we had. But we wanted to get you back on again because you guys, and I remember you were talking back in that episode that you'd acquired actually the Znode platform. That wasn't something you guys had built from scratch, but you were in the process of rebuilding it from scratch as a native SaaS, multi-tenant SaaS platform. You were getting to the stage where you're about ready to re-release V2, so to speak, of Znode at that point. But you reached out to me recently and you said, look, we've done a lot of work on this platform. It's made a lot of advancements in the last year, and we want to come on the podcast and tell you all about it. So welcome, my friend.
Yeah, thank you, Jason. Thank you for having me. And I'm really excited to do this the second time. And what is more exciting, how fast the technology landscape is changing and so on. Very excited to talk about the stuff that we've been doing.
Yeah, it was interesting because what we were talking about was how on the last episode, and I'll just briefly recap it. What was really interesting was how your early days at Brady shaped not only your career, not only shaped your decision to build agencies, not only shaped kind of everything you've done since then. It is informed in a way, everything you've done since then, but that it set you on a path where B2B really has been almost your life's focus. Sure, for when you in your agency days, of course, you were working with some retail brands, but oftentimes working with super complex manufacturing and distribution businesses that had super complex needs. That they were building products, they were building complex products. They needed to be able to quote complex products. They needed to be able to present and display and sell complex products. So you really have come from a place where, as you started to think about the next generation of the Znode platform, this was not coming from a place of ignorance. This was coming from a place of a career filled with serving this industry and having a really intimate understanding of what the market needs.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Look, we've done this for 30 years now. And my team, yes, we have done almost, as an agency, we did around 450 plus implementations alone in the 10 years that we were in business as an agent before we exited that business. And then now on the product side. So yes, and just like you said, B2B, B2B2C, these use cases, when you talk about it, Jason, they're all unique. B2B is not one thing.
I mean, it's
So,
messy.
yes.
That's the way I like to think of B2B. When you think of the needs of manufacturers, distributors, wholesalers, and I almost put wholesalers in their own unique bucket, in the sense that wholesalers oftentimes are doing large volumes of traditionally retail products. If I'm wholesaling clothing, or if I'm wholesaling coffee mugs, or if I'm wholesaling just traditional retail products, but I'm selling them at scale as a wholesaler of product, maybe to retailers, for example, and I'm just the middleman that sits between the manufacturer and the retailer. That's a very different need and a very different proposition than if I'm an electrical wholesaler, or if I'm an electrical or an HVAC distributor, or if I'm a
Software.
building supplies distributor or a software distributor. It's a very different kettle of fish when we think of the needs of manufacturers, when we think of the needs of distributors, and when we think the needs of wholesalers. Oftentimes those needs, we call them all B2B sales, which they are. They're businesses selling to businesses, but the reality is, depending on the product, depending on the category, depending on the vertical, depending on sales channels that they want to adopt digitally, man, it can be there could be wild variation in the way that they sell their goods.
Yeah, yeah. And that's what I educate our customers and prospects and partners and the whole ecosystem, right? That's the big thing I try to educate is people dump in B2B as the thing, a B2B, B2X, and even within that, there's so many business models. And even within those business models, there's uniqueness of how the customers are being served by these businesses. Okay. And people try to fit them into a B2C platform or a B2B platform. And I think that's where there is loss of the customers and the personas of who you're serving because platform people get too swayed by the platforms that they're implementing and try to make it work for their customers. Where from my perspective, forget all platform or any other platform. The biggest learning lesson in this space for all customers should be, businesses should be, that they focus on their customers. How can they serve their customers tenfolds better? Otherwise, their competitors are, right? Are going to serve them better. So to me, the biggest thing for, again, B2B is, hey, first, who are my personas? Who are my customers? How do we serve them better? How do we build loyalty? How do we build that stickiness? How do we make this digital channel that we enable for them as their day-to-day system for communication with our company, right? That's what a B2B executive should be keeping in mind. And we have seen that, right? Because we have had the pleasure of working with so many companies, Jason. I've seen companies who have done well, they've taken their sales through these channels from 0% to almost 70% of the business, 80% of the business now going online, okay, having online. In industries that you never thought people are going to buy online. Did you ever think people are going to go buy a Ferrari online? People are doing that today, right? So similarly in the B2B world, right, is if you do it right, that's when the transformation, transition starts happening. And then you start building the satisfaction and you start getting the best CSAT scores from your customers around the tools that you're providing them. So yes, the short answer is B2B is very unique. But even before that, I would start with what do my customers need?
It's interesting that you mentioned that specifically because I would say I have yet to run into a manufacturer or distributor that becomes a client of mine that has done deep customer research and interviews.
Yep.
The first thing as part of my discovery, one of the first questions I ask them is, what are the themes? Have you done customer interviews? Have you asked them if they even want you to offer them e-commerce? Have you even asked them what e-commerce means to them? Have you asked them the 1, 2, 3 things they love about doing business with you versus the 1, 2, 3 things that are challenging about doing business with you? Have you contextualized what you're proposing? Have you contextualized it to them, not to you? Because 9 times out of 10, what I discover is that when these manufacturers and distributors start to think about e-commerce or digital commerce channels full stop, they always come at it from the lens of their business. They come at it from the lens of how can we make our team more efficient? How can we sell more cheaply? How can we claw back margin? How can we automate things? How can we streamline things? How can we achieve all this for us as the seller?
Yes.
We don't often think of it through the lens of the buyer and say, how can we make their life better? How can we streamline the buying process for them? How can we make them more efficient? How can we give them more joy and more fulfillment in that engagement with us? How can we make it easier for them? How can we make them stand out at their jobs because they have their own agenda? They have their own advancement agenda themselves in their own business. They're trying to work their way up the totem pole and be better at what they do. How can we help them achieve their goals and in the process achieve our goals? Why do you think that is? Why do you think it is that even the companies that say verbally to me, we're customer centric, we're totally focused on our customers, we're totally focused on giving them great customer service and having an account managed experience where they've got a primary point of contact that will do anything for them and bend over backward from them and procure new products for them and give them any product information they need. And is that what the customer actually wants? Do they want a manually handheld experience from your side, or do they want any form of self-service? And if they want self-service, what does self-service even mean to them? Because when I go in and I start doing customer interviews on their behalf, if I use the word e-commerce, 9 times out of 10, the word e-commerce doesn't even resonate with B2B buyers. They don't think the word e-commerce. They think buyer portal, trade portal. They use completely different terminology that oftentimes the concept of e-commerce does not even cross their mind. Even if that's what they're thinking they need, they don't know how to contextualize it in a
Right.
way that's meaningful to the seller. And so
Yep.
I have to bring the nuance to the conversation because the seller cannot do it. And I'm wondering why that is.
No, you're absolutely right. I think, Jason, the big thing is because everyone has hired digital leaders from e-com shops, brands, and so on, and they only know one way. And it's the time, right? So I'll give you another example. The customer who has done right, who has gone from 0% of sales to 75 or 75+% of sales online, they sat down in the branch all day for several days and interviewed people, right? Hey, what do you need? How would we make your life easy? And then again, doing small things and making sure they're working, right? So it's, to me, I think what I recommend or what we believe, right, as a platform is we need to make our platform so that it's extremely easy for our customers to really, first of all, speed to market so that they get pretty much everything they need to get it working, right? Within months. There's no 3 years left. AI is going to destroy everyone in 3 years, right? If there is no big checkbooks and those 3 years of implementations left. People want something up in few weeks, matter of days, right? Matter of couple months, right? So to me, making sure the platform has everything to launch quickly, right? To develop this POC very quickly, right? MVP extremely quickly. That's number one. Okay. Number two, adaptability. How can we quick allow our customers to adapt the user experience, the customer experience, all that to their customer needs? Okay. And then three, integration with their business systems and all the third-party tools that they have. Because guess what? When a contractor is logging in, or a wholesaler distributor is logging in, or a salesperson is logging in, they want to see real-time stuff.
Yeah.
They don't, it's basically you're creating sort of a front end to the ERP that your end sales reps and your customer service folks have access to, right? So showing that in a much better way and a much easier way. So those are things we believe. Jason, again, and I'm just giving you 3 out of 5 or 3 out of 10 items. These are the things that are very critical, okay, for allowing our customers to adapt the platform for their business needs versus adapting their business to a platform that they just bought. Okay. So that's the key differentiator. The big thing with our launch in Znode 10 is, again, giving more tools to businesses to do exactly what I just mentioned. One of the things that we wanted to do is in B2B, because of all this complexity, there isn't a true multi-tenant SaaS platform. Shopify is trying to get there, BigCommerce is trying to get there, but they're not true in terms of the extendability. So we, on the other side, we were giving extreme extensibility. We were saying, take our platform and build it around your business needs exactly the way you want it. Guess what? That was working well, but people still expected automatic updates. So what we have done is we have figured out a way to be in the middle of the ground, distributed SaaS. And that's what we have released with Znode 10. So what it is, it gives you a combination of SaaS, so you get automatic updates and so on demand. But at the same time, you also get to extend the platform exactly how you need it for your customers, from customer experience to how they use the tools, to the integrations, and so on. So everything deep that you need in order to define or make it for your customers, you still can do that. But then you also have the beautiful thing of being a SaaS type of platform.
And so is it your vision? And look, I had the pleasure of having Mariano from VTEX. He famously shook up the e-commerce world when he was talking about leaving the Mock Alliance, very vocally leaving the Mock Alliance, from VTEX leaving the Mock Alliance, and his reasoning behind that. I had him on the podcast to talk about his reasoning. And his argument is that the days of 8% IT budgets are over. That in a ZERP time period, sure, 8% IT maybe makes sense. He sees a world where IT is going to compose no more than 4% of revenue. It's not going to go back to 8% of revenue. It's not going to go back to 9% of revenue. It's not going to go back to 10% of revenue. It's just a totally unsustainable where cost of capital is not zero. anymore. And so his position is that the expectation of the whole world from IT technology, not just commerce technology, but IT writ large, is that all of the needed integrations, all of the needed data exchange, all of the needed business processes will be largely filled by effectively modular monoliths, meaning that they are monolithic, but they are modular, right? And so his point is that not only will the platform itself be pre-integrated. So if you're a B2B platform and you've got a PIM and you've got a CMS and you've got an OMS and you've got maybe even a WMS and then you've got commerce and you've got storefront and all these things, all those things are going to be so tightly integrated that there's no the composability as a concept is largely going to go away because there's going to be pre-composed technology. And his argument also was that their customers, in large part, do not want to have to own, with an iPaaS system, the integration of their commerce technology with their back office systems. They don't want to own that. They don't want to have, they don't have to buy and pay for an iPaaS. They don't want to have to pay for an SI to integrate all their systems together and maintain those system integrations. They want, for the most part, they want all that to be out of the box, and they want it to be part and parcel of their commerce system.
Oh, yeah.
And his argument is that's the direction that the industry is going. And the major driver of that is to bring cost and complexity of implementing omni-commerce systems down dramatically, and time to market, bring that down dramatically. So that's his position, and that's what he's seeing emerge in the market. And it sounds like you're seeing something very similar happen.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So on top of, I would piggyback to that a little bit. So on top of the integrations that you just talked about, right? Also this whole customer experience, right? And business models. The key is business models. So I'll give you some examples. Okay. You have B2X business models. You have B2X to C business models. Okay. When you talk B2B, there is manufacturer.
Yep.
There is manufacturer plus distributor, meaning they do manufacturing and then they also carry lines of distribution.
Yes.
Okay. These manufacturers, there are some manufacturers who want to sell direct, who don't want to sell direct. There are some manufacturers who work with these large distributors, and these distributors, they serve smaller distributors, right?
Yeah. The master distributor, sub-distributor.
So many models. So to me, is the platform serving those needs and then also growing, right? Because as these business models continue to evolve and mature, they're going to be doing two of the three things that they might be doing today. So does the platform think ahead, and is it providing those capabilities?
And I think you've hit the nail on the head there, because in fact, I can't think of an instance over the last 4 years where I've run into a pure manufacturer or a pure distributor. They're almost always both. So manufacturers might manufacture 10, 20%, 30% of their catalog, but they don't want to just sell their SKUs. They want to sell an entire solution into the market, right? So they're saying, okay, we manufacture 10, 20, 30% of our product, but we distribute 60, 70% of our product because we want to have a full packaged solution for industry, right? And I'm seeing it even from distributors who historically have only been pure play distributors, that they're introducing white labeled lines of product. They're designing product and having it made for them with contract manufacturing. So they're developing their own brands, their own lines of product. So they're becoming a manufacturer, not just a distributor. And then in the pure play distribution world, they're offering field services, they're offering warranty support, they're offering installation, they very rarely are. I don't think I've ever run into in the last 4 years a pure distribution where all they're doing is getting products into a warehouse and shipping products out of a warehouse. That pure distributor where all they're doing is moving goods from point A to point B and warehousing them in the middle. That doesn't really exist anymore. And even the distributors that maybe seem like a pure play distributor on the surface, they're oftentimes doing, for a portion of their catalog, they're doing drop ship, and for yet another portion of their catalog, they might be a pure marketplace. Those products may not even exist in their ERP, meaning that the supplier loads all the product data into their system. They load the sales price of the product. They load any tiered pricing of the product. And then all they do is clip the ticket on that transaction for a percentage of that transaction. So this multimodal selling model, or multi-model selling, is becoming absolutely the norm in B2B. It's not the exception anymore. It's the norm.
Oh yeah, and then combined to that, manufacturers do services on top of their products, right? They sell products to distributors, but do services on their own.
Yes.
They sell things with resellers and do part selling directly.
Yes.
So they've got all these business models that they have to work with, and then it also varies by industries, right? Auto industry works completely differently than an HVAC industry. So there's just those are all the things that we have to be able to adapt to.
And how do you think of your role in terms of other pieces of the commerce stack? So we see some B2B platforms trying to bring in end-to-end CRM capabilities, basically from lead to cash, being able to manage that in the commerce platform, all the way from customer acquisition to creating an account to being assigned a credit or terms, and then being able to actually transact and being able to interact with the business on an ongoing basis, maybe even having an account manager assigned by the platform in real time. We're seeing this convergence of digital technology and this consolidation of digital technology that means that more and more is expected of the commerce platform, where maybe historically that was expected by some other system in the business. Now the commerce platform is expected to do more and more functionality in the platform without having to integrate it to 2, 3, 4 other external systems. Of course, we always have to integrate with ERP. That's the beating heart of B2B. It always will be. Outside of that, it feels like the commerce platform is expected to be your PIM. The commerce platform is expected to be your OMS. In some cases, it's expected to be your WMS. It's expected to be your Salesforce management technology and be able to handle third-party sales agents and give them a place where they can log in, see which products they can sell, see what their margin is. It's just commerce systems today are expected to do a lot more things than just the simple, okay, log in, find a product, add it to my cart, check out, hit the buy button. Like, it's expected to do so much more than that.
So yes and no. We do believe that there's very high expectations from the commerce systems. Okay. But I think people are used to CRM. So I think the one big thing is the size of the company. If you're talking $100 million plus companies, Jason, they already have Salesforce or some CRM, Dynamic CRM or something. Okay. The mid-size and the small companies have HubSpot already, right? There are industry leading tools now that are driving that. So as a commerce platform provider, if we chase that, we will not be able to make it, right? Because if I try to build a CRM that is equivalent to Salesforce, if I try to build a order management system that is equal to IBM, I mean, there's just so I think we don't believe that's the route. In fact, people are asking for more best of breed now.
And are you seeing that the expectation, though, is that even for those mid-market and larger distribution companies, for example, that they're expecting you to have out-of-the-box integrations with HubSpot. They're expecting you to have out-of-the-box integrations with Salesforce.
Right. The whole marketplace, there is some expectation that yes, for sure.
Or are you encountering more a scenario where typically those mid-market distribution companies, for example, will already have an iPaaS in the business that they're using, and so plugging in a new commerce system is actually relatively straightforward versus needing something to be out of the box?
It's all over the place. It's all over
There's
the
no one size fits all.
Yeah, exactly. It's all over the place. We see every business is got unique tool sets that they're aligned with. So just they might have NetSuite ERP, but they've already bought an iPaaS or they haven't bought an iPaaS. They bought an iPaaS, but they're very frustrated with it. So, I mean, it's all over the place.
Yep, I'm seeing the same. And so for you guys, let's get into the nitty-gritty of some of the latest in Znode 10. What are the latest sort of inclusions, functionality, capability of the platform that you are most excited about? What are the things that, is it agentic AI? Is it PIM automation? Is it Salesforce automation? What is it that you're seeing right now in your platform in the stage of its life cycle that gets you the most revved up to sell that product into the market today?
So we've got some AI, some basics, to be honest, right? that there's a lot in the roadmap, and we are working on that. What I would say is really true B2B distributor SaaS. We are ahead of pretty much every competitor on that. So what Shopify has been able to do for B2C, we are trying to do that for B2B, but at the same time, making sure that they can still do everything they want to, extend it beyond just a basic SaaS platform. Okay. So that's the key area key area that we have invested in. Okay. Because all the traditional platforms that have been around, they still haven't gone to distributor SaaS or to SaaS. Still doing just when they say cloud, it's basically just managed hosting. Okay.
Path.
Yeah, exactly. So that's the big thing that we are excited about. And then obviously, as we made this change, we have added a lot more capabilities around our CMS. Our vision is that the entire customer experience can be managed by low code, right? And folks in marketing departments and so on, and business users. So we have done a lot of tool sets over there. We brought a lot of tool sets over there. And then, our commerce connector, which is exactly what we were talking about, making integrations very easy. So we've got our own iPaaS solution for Commerce Connector that allows for integrations with business systems, ERPs, CRMs, everything very easy. With again low code and more of a setup versus writing all this code for months. So those are some of the top key areas. We search a lot. We've released what's called the hybrid search, which is a combination of AI and the old ways of search indexing and so on. So there's a lot coming. And again, it's hard for me to go through every piece of the roadmap here, but there's a lot of things that have been released.
And when you say you want to bring flexibility to the table for B2Bs that maybe they haven't seen before, or maybe the market hasn't seen before, can you give me like just a single tangible example of that for distribution, say, that we can wrap our heads around as an example of that level of flexibility that's needed in the space?
Yeah, exactly. So one of the things that we are very good at, Jason, is exactly, what we're talking about, flexibility, right? So we have a distributor who sells direct, but then he also wants to enable his individual independent sales reps with their little stores. Okay. So if we have what is called the B2B stores, right? The B2B2C model available out of the box. So now a distributor can go set up his master store, but then also enable his sales reps, right? In fact, we're talking to several distributors who want to do that because they want to enable their independent sales reps, or there are still millions of small distributors who are doing 1 to 5 million in sales, but they don't have any web presence. So how do you enable them with the right product catalog, all the tools that are needed, right, for them to help do business online and at the same time serve you with improving yourself? So that's an example of a capability that as a distributor you could quickly implement with Znode.
So this would be a multi-site setup. So this would be
Got it.
a master site with maybe a D2C site and maybe sub-branded
Like
B2B sites,
microsites. Yep.
all underneath one setup with
Yeah.
unlimited categories, unlimited products, unlimited storefronts, unlimited kind of number of
You got it.
customers,
That's an
unlimited
example. Yep.
unlimited everything.
Yeah. And you can just go into the admin and do some setup right there, and bam, there you go.
Right, no,
Enable that feature.
makes sense. And what do you think, from an AI perspective, what do you think is going to be the future of? Because I'm seeing a few different themes emerge in the B2B world from an AI perspective, but I'd love to get your take on it. Where do you think AI is going to make its biggest impact in the B2B world?
I think it's efficiencies, right? To me, there's so many industries that are still coded. So like the trades, right? They're still working through the whole complex trading process, right? Bidding process. So some of this they can completely automate, right? Hey, create a code and submit for the bid and so on. So there's going to be so much of that. There's going to be efficiencies around, there's still orders coming through emails. There's still orders coming on a napkin in the B2B world. So all that, there's opportunity to pretty much read and have those orders and those things, of course, created automatically and available for review. Okay, I think AI is going to first start bringing a lot of efficiencies.
What We're already starting to see some of this AI automation, this Salesforce, not Salesforce the platform, but Salesforce the process automation starting to happen. We're seeing platforms like Go Motivate coming in and bridging that gap and automating. and bringing digital capabilities to these traditional communications channels like emails, WhatsApp, etc. And do you see a world where AI starts to materially impact the organization and structure of product data, for example, the organization and structure of customer data? And the reason I ask that question specifically is because what I'm seeing with AI is actually less of a need to create structured product data because AI is now multimodal. And I'll give you an example. So I can now upload to ChatGPT, regular old vanilla ChatGPT Plus. I can upload a 100-page PDF, or I can upload a 100-page CSV file, or I can upload an image. I can upload a PDF that's got images embedded in it, and it can interpret what those images are and what they mean. It can summarize a 100-page PDF in about 4 seconds, and it can give me a 2-paragraph summarization, or it can give me a summarization of the data in a CSV and tell me what that data means and what it represents. I can upload, and I've used this example on the podcast before. I was buying a dirt bike. I uploaded an image of a dirt bike from Facebook Market that didn't have the year on the listing, and I uploaded the picture of the bike to ChatGPT, and I was like, "What year of bike is this?" So it gave me the make, the model, the year, and then it said, "Oh, and by the way, it looks like it's had this customized and this customized because of XYZ reasons." My sense is that multimodal AI and agentic AI is probably going to get us to a place where instead of having to use AI to pull out structured data out of PDFs, out of CSVs, etc., inject that into a PIM system in a highly structured, highly mapped way, we're going to get to a place where the AI agent can query that data in whatever format it's in, whether it's in a PDF or whatever. Just currently a sales rep in the B2B world, if a customer sends them an email with a bunch of questions around their products, they're going to go to their network drive, they're going to go to their desktop, they're going to collate all the information together, they're going to pull it all together, they're going to structure it in a meaningful way, and they're going to send it back to the customer. The AI agent is going to be able to go into that repository of wherever that information is. It could be on a network drive, it could be on an S3 bucket, it could be almost anywhere. And that AI agent is going to effectively be able to collate and grab data in a meaningful way out of that unstructured data in real time and present it back to the customer in a meaningful way based on their query. And so it feels like a lot of that pre-work that is happening today on product data, both using humans and AI to pre-structure that data in a meaningful way, a lot of that effort is just going to go away within the next 1 to 3 years.
Those are little nuggets. I think there are bigger things that are about to happen with AI, Jason. Those are definitely happening, right?
Yes.
Those kinds of optimizations are already happening, right? And I don't know if you're aware, but Anthropic's cloud,
Yes.
you know, even it's already calling APIs and doing the work for you, right? It can quickly start doing a lot, right? So to me, yeah, PIM product data is definitely a big thing. A lot of efficiencies, a lot of pain that can go away there, right, with AI. But to me, I think there's so much to unleash after like couple years towards AI commerce, right? Are human beings even going to be placing manual orders, or are they just going to say, find the best price for this and place an order for me? Is
Yep.
that all I'm going to do the chat with?
Yep.
You see what I'm saying? Is OpenAI or any of these agentic tools going to allow us to just pretty much place an order while we're thinking?
Yeah. They already are. ChatGPT is, unfortunately, it was leaked, but they're working on their Commerce API, and their first partner on that is Shopify, but they're going to open that up to the wider world to where agents can be enabled and empowered by their users, i.e. me. They'll effectively, I see them becoming a digital wallet. I see them holding all my interest data. And that actually, to your point, to me, feels like where these LLMs are going to get their lock-in from. So, and I'll give you an example. So I've been using ChatGPT Plus for about a year now, I think, and I about 6 months ago, I installed a plugin into the Brave browser that redirects all my web queries directly to ChatGPT. So I haven't been using Google search for at least 6 months at all, like
Wow.
at all. And I the thing is that now for me to change my daily LLM that I use would be painful because ChatGPT now knows so much about me and it has such a large context window about me. And it's asked me so many times, do you like answer A or answer B? That it knows how I like it to formulate its answers for me. that it's almost like the early days of Google, that once you figured out how Google worked and once you became an expert Googler, you were loath to use any other search engine because Google was just the best and it knew you the best and it was starting to tailor its answers best for you. I feel like those customer facing LLMs like ChatGPT, that's the new form of lock-in. Because if I started with a new platform, even a Grok, which I occasionally use, and I occasionally use other platforms just to compare answers versus ChatGPT, if I was to make a wholesale move to those platforms, it would be like another 6 months before it got to the same level of understanding me that ChatGPT has. So is that the new lock-in?
Yeah, yeah. And these are still like, we're still in the world of typing and asking things and getting answers. With brain chips now being approved in
Yeah,
California,
yeah.
I'm really
Neuralink.
going to think. I'm really going to think and tell myself, oh, I need to take care of this or buy this, and stuff will happen. Quite honestly, we are in so early days of AI, Jason. Anything we all predict right now in the next couple of years is quite honestly way smaller. There are big things about to happen. There are big things about to happen.
But I think for the practical application of this lock-in model, to me, it feels, especially from a distributor standpoint, it feels like the distributors that can implement agentic AI the soonest and can create that knowledge of their customer within that context window of that agentic interaction, the ones that can get there first, they are going to start creating lock-in with their customers, just like ChatGPT is creating lock-in with its users. It feels, once I've worked with a distributor for 6 months with their agentic AI and it knows me better than it knows myself and it knows my use cases and it knows the things I
Yes.
typically buy and it knows the application data and it knows the SKUs I typically buy and it knows the attributes of the SKUs that matter to
And
me,
how
and
you
it knows
search.
and
And
it
how
know
you
and it,
search.
and it knows the types of projects that I work on and the types of budgets I usually apply. And once it knows all those things about me, and it knows my team, and it knows the different parts of the buying experience that my team members are responsible for, it feels like that all of a sudden creates a level of lock-in or stickiness with my customer, just like ChatGPT is creating lock-in with their users.
Yes, that is about to happen, Jason.
And
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 those are
that
the
that
things that
that
e-commerce
creates
platforms are
opportunity.
getting ready for.
That creates opportunity like we've never seen before.
You got it. And then the
And
key is who's gonna be the first to the race.
yeah, and do you like when you think about the roadmap of Znode in particular, not necessarily Artify, but Znode, do you like what keeps you up at night in terms of, okay, we got to be ahead of the curve, but we can't be too far ahead of the curve. We got to bring our customers along for the ride and along for the journey, and we got to educate them and upskill them and transfer these capabilities into their business. And we're not about eliminating people, we're about giving them superpowers and all these things. What keeps you up at night where you're going, okay, there's this fine line I got to walk. We got to be ahead of the curve, but not too far ahead of the curve. Like, where do you sit on that?
AI keeps me up at night. I'm excited for me, but it keeps me up at night for technology company that I run. Because the key is there's so many things about to change,
Yes,
and we got to get it right. It's like Google. When Google came in, it eliminated Lycos and Yahoos and everything, right?
yes,
Alta Vista, all those searches went away. They vanished. So
yes.
similarly, I think there is a thing about AI commerce that we got to all figure out. Now, on the Artify side, we are way ahead.
Yes.
Jason, because we have our own agent LLM called Berry.ai, and we're able to start doing a lot of things in there. But commerce, there's so much about to change in commerce.
Yes. I'm reading some of the latest papers about MCP, and I'm trying to keep up with it myself. And as somebody
Yes.
who I think I'm a non-coder, but I think I'm a very technical non-coder. So I can read technical documentation, understand it, and that sort of stuff. But I tell you, the sheer volume of information coming out of the industry right now, it's a lot even for somebody like me that lives and breathes this stuff every single day. It's a lot to absorb. It's a lot to take in. And it feels like the early days of beta versus VHS, where the best technology may not be the one that wins.
Yeah.
It may be the one that's marketed the best. It may be the one that simply is adopted the fastest. It may be the one VHS from a resolution perspective was way worse than beta, but VHS ended up winning that war. And
Yeah.
it was the same with video disc versus, say, Blu-ray. Video disc was significantly better quality, but it was a 12-inch disc, totally unwieldy, very expensive to manufacture, very expensive technology to read. And so what happened, what ended up, it was almost like Blu-ray versus regular DVD. The same sorts of things have happened right throughout the history of technology. The best technology doesn't always win necessarily, but it's really interesting to watch how each of these major AI players are positioning themselves to be the sole winner, and it feels like that's an impossibility. It feels like there is room for multiple winners, maybe not 1,000 like there are today, players in the market, but there's probably gonna be, like, 5 major AI players in the world, right? Not
Good.
1,000.
Yeah.
And it feels also that the app layer is gonna be where the most value is created for consumers. And by that, when we think of Shopify or we think of Apple or Android or whatever, it's all about the app I use the saying, "It's all about the apps, stupid," right? It's keep it simple, stupid, but it's all about the apps, stupid, right? And it feels like those technologies would never have become as great as they are without the incredible app ecosystem they built around their core platforms, right?
Yes.
And it feels like AI is going to go through its app moment where there's going to be these underlying base technologies, yes, but it's going to be the technology layer 1 or 2 levels above that extends into the consumer area and into the B2B area and leveraging those technologies in really immediately useful and practical ways. It feels like once that starts to happen at scale, that's when AI really sees adoption.
Yeah, and I think that day isn't far.
Yeah.
It's coming, it's close. And I think to your question, yes, that's what keeps me up at night is making sure we have a plan and we are ahead.
And it's gonna be interesting because even in a world where agentic commerce is the default, and that's probably 2 to 5 years away, agentic commerce becomes the norm, and maybe not everybody is using agentic commerce, but a significant portion of the population is using agentic commerce in some way. Even if they don't realize it, they're actually using it. What's interesting to me is that you still need a commerce engine. You still need APIs. You still need
Oh, yeah.
a source of product data. You still need some form of order management process. You still need some way to fulfill. You still need a business engine, a business management engine behind the scenes doing the heavy lifting, bringing this super simple agentic experience to the consumer. You still need technology to facilitate all this. So it's
Oh,
not
yeah.
like I definitely don't believe that commerce engines are just gonna go the way of the dodo as soon as agentic commerce becomes the norm.
Yeah, and that's where I think we are going to win, Jason, because we are an API first platform. We adopted that almost 10 years ago now. And everything for us is a microservice and an API. And we're already seeing that with cloud, with Anthropic, that people are creating POCs with Znode today. And exactly what you said, the agentic shopping is already happening with Znode.
Yeah. It's an exciting time to be alive, isn't it, my
Yeah.
friend?
Yeah, man. Yeah.
I remember having these same fears, not necessarily fears, but certainly I could see the writing on the wall, disruptively speaking, when mobile became a thing. And I remember still to this day, the first time you remember when Nokia came out with their proprietary mobile browser?
Yeah.
And they were the first company to make a quasi smartphone that you could browse the internet from
No
your
kidding.
phone. And I remember my friend, the first time my friend happened to be pretty wealthy when I was younger, and he amongst all my group of peers, he always had the latest technologies. He always had the latest cell phone. He always had the latest computer. He always had the latest everything. I remember he had the first Sony Vaio that came out, so he always had the smallest laptop. He always had the cutting edge tech. And I remember him showing me this brand new, I can't remember what Nokia model it was. I think it was 8110 or something like that, with this first generation mobile browser. And it was in black and white. It was on an LCD screen. But even then, I remember seeing this and he showed it to me for the first time. He was browsing the internet. I was like, okay, this now is this. When I first saw that, I remember being as wowed by that as I was the first time I got on the internet with dial up. I remember being as wowed by that as I was the first time I used Google. I remember being as wowed by that as anything I had seen come before it. And in the same way that I knew mobile was gonna completely transform everything we did in conjunction with the internet, I'm just as wowed by AI today as I was in the mobile era. And I was just as concerned in the mobile era about how we would adapt. I was like, and I was already working in the industry at that time when mobile became the thing, the main device that people interface with the internet. And I just remember thinking, how are we going to cram all these super rich web experiences that we've built for laptops, for example? How are we going to cram that on this tiny little freaking screen? How are we going to do that? How are we going to create rich experiences on mobile? How is that possible? And yet we did. We figured it out. And so
Yeah.
it's so interesting to think that I have the similar excitement, but also the similar concerns or trepidations about AI that I did when I saw the mobile revolution happen. It's a very similar pattern playing out, I feel like, with AI today.
No, you have a very good point. I think I would agree to that. There is, you know, how everyone is saying the world is about to change, just like the internet revolution, search revolution. I think Google, if you think about it, Google gained mainstream in 2000, right? 1999 and 2000. Okay. It's 25 years now.
Yeah,
AI is going to do the same thing, but in 5 years
yeah,
instead of 25.
yeah,
iPhone, iPhone took 5 years to really start building the ecosystem.
yep,
Okay? AI is going to take a year to start building that. These companies are already way ahead.
yeah.
So
Those
there's a
those
lot coming
cycles.
in our life. There's a lot coming in our life.
Yeah, look, it's interesting. I'm 50 now, and I've seen these patterns play out maybe 3, 4 times before in my career so far. And definitely I still see as the most transformative. And I don't know exactly, like you said at the beginning, anybody that tells you they know how this is going to play out, they haven't seen too many of these super cycles play out then, because it never plays out exactly the way you think it's going to play out.
Yeah.
Like, we can recognize the patterns, but it doesn't mean we automatically recognize where the end state is going to end up. You could have, in the beginning, I remember that Google was very transformative, and I remember the days when I was self-taught on Google AdWords and clicks were 5 cents a click. I remember that. I remember those days. And I remember it feeling like it was a magic money machine. When I first started my e-commerce pure play back in the day, it felt like a magic money machine. It felt, oh, I put 5 cents in and I get $50 out. It was like, it was insane how easy it was to generate business back then just by turning on AdWords. If you had a good product at a good price, AdWords would make the rest of your business, like, that was your business. You
Yeah,
could
and all
build
those
your
businesses are struggling now. The
correct.
AdWords heavy businesses are struggling right now.
Correct. Exactly. Even my business back in the day, as competition increased and as the
And
click costs
Amazon, as
went,
Amazon came in.
and Meta and everybody else. And now AppLovin, and there's just more competition than ever before for the acquisition dollar. And so it's, you and I have been in the industry long enough to see these patterns emerge multiple times, but I don't know how it's going to play out in the end. But certainly, I think it's important for all of us who are tech leaders to really try to keep our finger on the pulse, because I tell you, if we're concerned about it and it's keeping us up at night, imagine the manufacturers, distributors, and other players in our space that are technical laggards already. Like, they're behind. Maybe a lot of these companies don't even do e-commerce yet at all in any meaningful way. Imagine what keeps them up at night about keeping their business alive in an agentic or in an AI-led future. If we're concerned about it and we're tech leaders, for people that are just not tech savvy at all, and it's never historically been an interest of theirs, imagine how concerned they are.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, I wouldn't be sleeping very much if I was a distributor that was a technical laggard.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Auto manufacturer.
Yeah, exactly. All right, my friend, this has been a super interesting conversation. It always is with you. What is on your priority list for the next 6 to 12 months?
So I think the number one is figuring out how we can leverage AI and start to gain momentum and be ahead of everyone else.
Wow. It's a question that every single platform
Honestly,
vendor that I'm associated with, it's a question that everybody's asking. Sorry about that, my friend. This thing's playing up, so I think we'll call it a day. We'll call time on our conversation. But listen, it's been an absolutely fabulous one as always. I wish you every success with Znode 10. I'm looking forward to keeping you and getting you back on the podcast again in maybe another 6, 12 months, and seeing where you've got to from the AI perspective. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. Can't wait to speak to you again soon, my friend. Are you a B2B or D2C e-commerce merchant? Then head over to greenwoodconsulting.net to learn how we can help you scale your business.